Okay, hi, my name is Guy Rosefelt. I am Chief Product Officer for Sangfor Technologies. What we're doing here is, we are one of the largest cybersecurity and infrastructure companies in Asia. We've moved into the GCC region and become very, very successful. We're expanding greatly. We have a very large office here in Dubai. We have a large office that we opened up last year in Saudi Arabia. We've opened an office in Oman, and we've done some very good business over there. And lots of nice customers that we've met. Our products have been very, very popular. So what we're doing here at GITEX is we're talking about the integration of our solutions that we call Synergy, which is basically the synergy of our products working together to be able to close the gaps between the spheres of influence that each security product has, and then being able to use AI to improve the ability to detect threats, to be able to identify bad things, to be able to reduce false positives, and to be able to improve security operations in small organizations that don't have large security expertise or large security teams. Is the market ready for the cyber threats that are coming to be done? That's a good question, because the answer is yes and the answer is no, okay? We know what the cyber threats are coming. We've seen in the last several years, attackers have weaponized artificial intelligence. They've weaponized AI and put it into malware, into advanced persistent threats, which is one of the reasons why things like ransomware is almost 100% effective regardless of what you do. We know that they're doing this. The problem is, how do you combat weaponized AI malware? And that's something that most organizations still haven't got a handle on in terms of understanding all the threat vectors, how the AI can cause applications to change in their behavior, become stealth and sleep for 6 months. That becomes the big things. A lot of organizations don't really see that this has happened. They still think malware is malware. They don't understand it is 1,000 times smarter than it was 5 years ago, and it can do bad things. Most people don't realize they've already been breached, and that's the big problem. We've been working with traditional security, which says, you want to do detection and you want to do blocking, and that's going to solve 99% of your problem. Well, the problem is today, solving 99% of your problem is not enough, because all it takes is that 1% to get through, and that 1% is a lot smarter than the other 99%. Which means that instead of being able to detect and block everything, something has already got through, you've already been breached. Most organizations don't know how to look for that breach. And that's where bad things start to happen. That's where ransomware goes out and spreads very quickly. That's where organizations find out that they've been infiltrated by advanced persistent threats that are able to now grab data and then exfiltrate that data out to the internet, so that then they can go and sell it and ransom it in a whole different way. Trying to get organizations to understand that the traditional security that they spent a lot of money on in the last 25 years doing is no longer valid, is a different thing to go do, right? The pandemic helped. The pandemic showed that the traditional perimeter no longer exists, right? The perimeter is gone because we have people working from home, we have people working from anywhere, we have branch offices, we're using all kinds of apps to get access to things on your mobile phone. So basically the traditional perimeter is Swiss cheese. So now we have to develop a new software-defined perimeter which can encompass not just everything on premise, but things in the cloud, things in a remote data center, things along different ways. How do I integrate and protect all that stuff together? That's a completely different way of thinking than we're used to for the last 5 years. So we know what the problem is, we just haven't moved forward enough to be able to figure out how to solve the problem succinctly, if that makes sense. So how do you become more aware and proactive against these kinds of threats? All right, so number one, you need to do continuous assessment. A lot of regulatory compliance things want you to go and have a self-assessment done looking for security gaps, looking for attack surfaces, making sure all your stuff is patched. They say you want to do that on an annual basis. You should actually be doing it quarterly, right? Because your organization changes on a rapid scale. New systems come in, old systems go out, you make modifications to the network, you buy a company, you're bought by another company, networks change. All this stuff is very dynamic, and networking, even though it's a technology, is actually alive. And when you connect stuff to it, it changes. When you connect other stuff to it, it changes. And people don't really understand that. So you need to do a lot of self-assessment on a regular basis, looking for what changed, what is different, what new systems came on that haven't been patched, what company did I buy that has a bunch of old systems no one knew about that are probably still running in the background that need to be either decommissioned or patched or dealt with because they'll become a security threat later on, right? Do an assessment at least twice a year, 4 times a year, once a quarter is best. That's number one. Once you understand what your current security posture is, and you identified the gaps in your organization, the attack surfaces that are there, now you need to sit down and build a team or work with your security team and with a trusted partner in terms of how can I modify my existing strategy, how do I upgrade my existing architecture to close the new gaps that we found, right? And some of these things are easy to do, some of these things are policy type things, some of these things might be more difficult, some of these might point to the fact that I've not updated some operating systems, I've not updated my security tools in a timely fashion. Once I understand the things I need to go do, I can build an implementation plan that says, in the next 3 months, I need to do these kind of things, and I'm going to fix everything. What happens in 3 months? I fixed all these things, I do a self-assessment, and again, more things have popped up. So this is a ever-iterating type of thing. But the idea is you need to be on top of this, you need to be aware of what's happening, so that every time your organization changes, you can find the gaps, you can find the new security risks, you can find the attack surfaces, and be able to close them as quickly as possible to minimize the chance someone else finds them before you do, and you become infiltrated, okay? Because again, you've already been infiltrated, which means now, not only am I closing gaps, I need to find out where is the threat actor that's already infiltrated my organization. What system has been already compromised? How do I do that? So I need to make sure my security team understands, I need to have the right tools to be able to look for the breadcrumbs, network detection and response, application detection and response, looking for the breadcrumbs that these advanced persistent threats that are weaponized AI leave behind, so that I can figure out where was patient zero that was infected 6 months ago, 12 months ago, that started doing things like, oh, it's doing a small scan once every 3 weeks, looking to find out what are the critical systems I want to go and infect and grab data from, right? I have to have tools that can understand and do that. How do I do that? This is all AI based. I need to have AI tools to be able to combat the AI. So we're looking at regular assessment, building a team that understands what the gaps are and a remediation plan to close that stuff, and then having the tools that are as smart or smarter than the threats that I'm trying to fight against. And the last part is probably the most difficult to go do, because most people don't understand how AI works. They don't understand the gaps between the technology they've implemented and where they need to be. And a lot of it takes resources and money that organizations may not have because it's not in their budget. And you know, security in most organizations is a cost sink. It's not a revenue generator. It's a way to spend money, and nobody wants to spend money because it affects profit. Organizations need to understand this is here, this needs to be kept up like anything else. And you have to maintain it to ensure that you minimize the risk in your organization, because at the end of the day, if you don't maintain the security in an orderly fashion, you're going to have a breach. And all of a sudden you've lost 1 million customer records which are published on the internet. So you've lost revenue, you've lost customer confidence, you've lost brand erosion, a lot of bad things happen. It's going to cost you more to fix it than what it was going to cost you to do it right in the first place. And that's the short version of the story.